Good evening, everyone. My name is Zon Eastis, and I'm calling this meeting of the regular meeting of the Select Board to order on Wednesday, October the 11th. Just a note that whenever there's a federal holiday, our meetings are automatically moved to the following Wednesday, 2 days later. So that's what we're doing tonight. Glad everyone's here. Nice to see you all. Making sure everyone's properly signed in. Yes, thanks very much. We'll keep going with that. All right, Rusty, we can start with the rules of procedure, please.
The Select Board has a set of rules and procedures that are for all Guilford public meetings and are now shared with all committees and commissions. They are here in the chat online and published on the town website. These rules request that everyone present at the meeting conduct themselves in a civil manner. Tonight, individuals will have a reasonable amount of time to comment on actions the Select Board is considering. Comments and questions will inform Select Board's decision-making process. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments will be heard, not responded to. There will be no exchange between the Select Board and a commenter. No questions will be responded to. Any questions will be recorded and responded in a timely fashion. Additionally, here in the room and in the chat online, there is some basic information which includes how to contact Select Board members, how to secure a spot during the community comment portion of the meeting, how to get on the agenda, and how to communicate with the board via mail or email.
Thank you very much, Rusty. Thanks very much. And so now we move to the portion of the meeting called welcoming of the public. I'm glad everyone's here. Welcome this evening. And Veranda, is there any comment this evening?
Yes. Is Don McLean here? Oh, hi, Don. Don has a community comment.
Hi, Don.
Are you ready for me?
Yes.
I'm broadcasting to you from very nearby in the basement of the Broadbrook Community Center. And the reason I'm down in the basement is the other parts of the building are all occupied with bustling activity. And I'm here to tell you about one of those activities. There's a rehearsal in progress upstairs in the theater space for the play which Guilford Center Stage is doing in a week and a half called Haunts of the Season. It's actually not a play. It's a bunch of little plays and other things all put together, creating a delightful potpourri of October happenings. And it's all under the direction of Michael Nethercott, a wonderful playwright and director who lives right up the road from here. It contains monologues, poems by people like Edgar Allan Poe, Shakespeare, Emily Dickinson, as well as several short skits and a one-act play by Nethercott, which is being rehearsed at this very moment, called The Decency, which is a wonderful short play. This all takes place October 20th, Friday at 7:30 p.m., October 21st, Saturday at 7:30 p.m., and October 22nd, which is a Sunday matinee at 2 p.m. Tickets are $13 at the door. You can get advance tickets online. The best way for me to direct you to do that is to have you go to the wonderful Broadbrook Community Center website, where there is a whole bunch of information about this play. And there's a button you can push that will take you right to the ticket ordering venue. So that's it. I hope you'll join us. The subtitle is Original Plays and Creepy Classics. And I hope that doesn't sound too scary because it's really a lot of fun. So hope to see you there, and thank you for this opportunity to tell you about it.
Thanks so much, Don. And I hope that everybody in this room will have a chance to see it, and our audience as well. So I'm so glad that you made time for us in the midst of your rehearsal.
All right.
Over and out.
Thank you, Miranda. All right, we'll move on to changes to the agenda order. We have one slight change, a request for the Select Board that we will have the Rescue Inc. speak to us at the beginning of our updates and reports, if folks are okay with that. And then we'll move on with the Town Administrator, Highway Commissioner after that. I also want to note that we did get a notice from one Guilford citizen who noted that on this agenda there is no discussion about conflict of interest, which was has been on a number of meetings prior. And just to say that, remind everyone that we tabled the discussion of the conflict of interest to a future meeting. At our last meeting, we tabled that discussion, and there was a note from a request from one of our select board members that there's more time required to be prepared, so we won't have it on this evening's agenda. We'll have it on the future agenda. Hopes it will be on the next agenda, but no firm promises about that. All right, let's move on then to updates and reports. So
approval of minutes, don't we?
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Gosh, thank you.
I love those minutes.
Yeah.
In fact, I will move that we accept
thank you.
the minutes from the 9/25/23 meeting.
Thank you kindly. Is there a second for that? Thank you, Michael. All right. Let's take a vote. We're all in the room, so we can have a single voice vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you. That passes. So now we move forward to updates and reports. We have Rescue Inc. So please.
Where do you want us? Right here?
Yeah, right near that mic. See kind of where the chairs are. Yeah. Give us a chance to also.
Well, good evening.
Hello.
Yay.
I'm Gordon Little. For those who don't know me, Tara, it's nice to meet you. It's wonderful to be back in this room. It's been a while. I've been asked to provide the select board with an update on what is going on with rescue. We've put this off a little bit because we were kind of waiting for the final decision coming out of Brattleboro, which is now made. I thought it was prudent to wait for that to get resolved. So that has been. Because I can't answer all the questions, I'm sure somebody else can. I've included and asked Drew Hazelton, who is the chief at Rescue, to join me and really, probably provide you with more information than I certainly can. But the bottom line is Rescue's doing amazingly well. When COVID hit, it was a real questionable time period. Brattleboro separated at that point. Financially, that was a big tug. I will say that Drew and his crew have done an amazing job of capitalizing on other opportunities. EMS is not a successful, on its own business, which many you'll hear in the state all over the place. But knowing that there are other areas of opportunity that Rescue fills, and Drew has found these opportunities with his people and has been extremely successful bringing in that revenue to allow Guilford and all the other 14 towns that Rescue serves the ability to provide the level of EMS that they do provide. I didn't say this, Guilford has a trustee that sits on Rescue's trustee board. I am that individual and have been, I want to say, for 6 or 7 years. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. But Drew, I think I'll just turn this over to you to give a little kind of update on where things stand and the direction we're going. And thank you for being here.
Sure. And so just a quick little bit about EMS in general. EMS is complicated, and most people don't think a lot about it until they're thinking a lot about it when they need services. And I think it's important that everybody understand that EMS is not just the delivery of 911 service when someone's having a medical emergency or traumatic event. It's really a system of care that's provided outside of the walls of the hospital. And that includes our local first response, that includes the 911 aspect of what we do, but it's also taking patients that are in need of higher levels of care to facilities that can provide that. So if you need a surgery that's not available locally, or you have a cardiac issue or trauma that needs a specialty service, part of it, the EMS responsibility, part of what we provide to all of the citizens and visitors is access to those treatments. Part of what we're working with Brattleboro Hospital on right now, along with other partners, is what we call mobile integrated healthcare. And we're very excited about modernizing EMS delivery in Vermont. We're the only ones with a pilot project now for mobile integrated health, which will allow us to provide additional care in the home that doesn't require transportation to an emergency room. In many cases, that's not the most appropriate care for patients. We're also working with the Brattleboro Retreat and we now provide mental health transportation for not only the Windham County area, but for the entire state, as a service to help ease the kind of the overcrowding in hospitals and unfortunately a vulnerable population that quite often can't get their services met. We've been working with the state to help with the unhomed population. We've done large projects assessing the needs in every single county. We worked with Vermont on flood response. During the recent flood, we provided 3 Type 3 swiftwater teams. To put that into perspective, the resources we brought in out of state, we were able to bring in with the assistance of EMAC, 2 teams out of North Carolina. We were able to stand up 3 of our own. So even the state of Vermont was only able to put up 2. So we have a very robust response there. That process continued in the emergency phase for 10 days, and then we worked with the state doing damage assessment and debris assessments for the next 60 days beyond that. So we have a lot of different things that we're working on. New in 2022 was VEMSA, which is the Vermont EMS Academy. It's the education branch of Rescue Inc. We're now working full-time. We have a dedicated staff that's providing education not only to EMS providers, but also to community members, hospital staff. We provide, for example, all of the phlebotomy training for Brattleboro Hospital, all the continuing nursing education for Grace Cottage, and we're rolling out programs all over the state. In the last month, we've been as far north as Newport. We were teaching last week in Fairleigh. So that's kind of what we've got going on. We have a staff of about 120 between our career staff and our volunteers. We have a volunteer branch, which is our technical rescue branch. They're the ones who are responsible for all the water rescue and backcountry search and rescue. So total is about 120 staff and volunteers doing programs all over the state. We're going to be putting official dates out soon, but we will be offering vaccines again this fall for uninsured patients only as part of a state what's called a bridge program for it's a federal program for access. So lots of stuff going on at Rescue. I guess I can give you guys some Guilford specific stuff, or I can answer questions.
Well, and the other thing I just want to stress, and I think Drew pointed it out really well, that EMS is a lot more than an ambulance showing up at your door. But if it does need to be at your door, it is at your door. Rescue hasn't missed a call. You say this much more eloquently than I can. But I mean, it's really impressive that when that call goes out, the bus, whatever's going to be there, Rescue does get there. And they don't, stack these calls. They don't do anything else. They have a team that, it's set to operate. And to do that and to provide that level of service, there's obviously a cost to it. But to me, it doesn't matter. If I'm the one going down and my heart's an issue, I want to know someone's going to be there. But what are the specific numbers?
So at this point, we're up to 7 years with 100% batting average without having to rely on anybody to assist us on emergency calls. That's a data point that we are super proud of, and that includes all of our pandemic response. Right. So during that period of time, during the pandemic, we actually operated in every single county of Vermont, including providing all of the COVID treatment for 6 hospitals in the state. We're all being run by Rescue at that time, and we still were able to kind of meet our mission, which is to meet 100% of our emergency calls. Our operations staff is extremely dedicated. They do a great job. We currently have 5 ambulances housed at our Brattleboro office. Right now we have 2 ambulances in Keene supporting the city as they're working through transitions in Cheshire County. The rest of our ambulances are based out of our Townsend office. But those ambulances are constantly moving to meet system status. So if any area gets busy, we move resources from another area. That's why there's always an ambulance available. Now there will be a day. We can't bat 100% forever, but we're going to try to hold on as long as we possibly can. So yeah, we're very proud of that. The cost of readiness is real. So that's part of what I think is important that, select boards and elected officials understand. The cost to have that equipment, have that personnel that's able to respond is real. And, that's part of what your assessment every year helps us cover is the cost of readiness, the cost of being available when the 911 call happens.
I do have a couple of questions, just because it's fascinating for me to learn. This whole process, of course, has been fascinating for all of us to watch. But so when you said you're working with a retreat and you're able to do mental health support over the entire state, is that all from Brattleboro that you do that? And so when you send some, do you negotiate with other rescue teams around the state to drive people and so forth like that? Is that, or do you do is it all right out of Brattleboro?
So it's all works out of it's a special team. Mm-hmm. So part of the challenge of EMS is that we're not very well trained in managing mental health patients. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of it, but it's actually the smallest part of our education. So the teams that we have working with the retreat are actually specially trained by the retreat to provide the level and type of care that the retreat expects, and that crew is based out of the retreat and goes to any area of the state that is having difficulty with transportation, and then brings those patients back in for the treatment.
Okay, great. Fascinating. Okay, then I've already forgotten my second question.
Maybe
Does anybody else have a question or anything they want to?
Well, as the parent of a medically vulnerable adult child, we've had rescue at our home, and I feel very grateful for that. There was an issue about transporting my daughter from Pine Heights to Dartmouth Hitchcock that, anyway, I don't want to discuss it in public, but I would be interested in knowing whom to talk to about a decision about not transporting her that was very difficult for us. So, we could talk, I could just send you a message and you could let me know who the right person would be.
Yeah, I'm always available for that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll get your contact information, and I'm Veranda, and I will be in touch in a friendly way.
Yes, glad to talk.
Any questions? So you're working when you said at the front, one of you said 14 towns in this region right here, but then it sounds like you're also working in Keene as well, and so you have towns in New Hampshire in addition, or? So
currently, Rescue's doing primary 911 response to the same towns we were 2 years ago, with the exception of Brattleboro. Mm-hmm. We're providing support to the city of Keene. But we are not the primary EMS provider in Keene. Keene Fire Department is.
I see.
They were in a situation that they needed support, and
you were able to.
Drew's team was able to fulfill what they needed at the time. So, and that's the main. It's not necessarily a long-term thing, but it's getting them out of the pinch.
Yeah, as they work to come up with what their long-term strategy looks like.
I see. I wondered if you were so. When you just said also at the beginning, Gordon, you said that there were lots of ways. I think I heard several of them, the ways in which it's not just about EMS, but all these other services.
Right.
And this is the kind of thing you're talking about, these different contracts and types of services that you're able to.
And VEMSA is a big, this training facility is state of the art. Mm-hmm. They have actually an ambulance in the facility that is all, it's connected to all. It's got sirens, it's got noise, it's got bumps, it moves. I mean, it's really incredible. And Drew really sees, and his team see that unit of training a big piece moving forward, not just for us locally or in the state of Vermont, but there are teams coming in for paramedic training, and whatnot. So they're offering these levels of training that aren't next door. I mean, even Massachusetts is, sending people in this direction. Yeah. So it's going to be a big deal. And from the standpoint of generating you know, a business unit that operates successfully, you know, that's certainly one of the visions that Rescue has moving forward, that's going to be something to help sustain some of these other programs.
Great.
I think the key that everybody, you know, again, you guys need to understand is that there is, it is very unlikely that any EMS system can support itself utilizing the revenue generated from doing 911 calls.
Right.
The cost of readiness is simply too high.
Yeah.
So in Vermont, so our assessment rate here is $24 and change. Assessments in Vermont range from, on the low end, $4, on the high end, to $200. And that's very normal. So what we're seeing across not only Vermont but across the country is, because that cost of readiness has increased significantly post-pandemic, cost of labor has gone up over 25% since the pandemic. A lot of people left healthcare, creating a supply and demand issue, driving wages across the industry up. So what you're seeing in a lot of areas are these assessment numbers doubling, tripling, quadrupling in order to try to fill in the gaps for the cost of readiness. And what we're working on at Rescue is coming up with ways to diversify what we do so that we can maintain the high quality of service without having to come back to the towns and say, hey, we need to triple our assessments. Because we know that you're already taxed, literally. Like, we know that.
And that's another reason this last contract that was signed, it was a 3-year agreement starting, and we second year?
Second year.
So we're in the second year of that contract, but that contract 3 years ago was presented and it increased by 1%. I want to say, is that correct?
Yep.
1% each year. So, I mean, in today's world, inflation, let me tell you something. But it's great for the select board because they're able to plan knowing what the numbers are, you know, out, which I was a big proponent of. I thought that was a great idea because it's very helpful.
So 2 things to know in the future. As we look down the road a little bit, we will have to revisit next fall what the rates will be going forward. There's a big thing happening. It's called cost data reporting in EMS nationwide. We were all required to do it. Federal mandates, lots of federal mandates in our world. Unfortunately for all of us, the pandemic pushed the reporting back. So the data that they're utilizing right now to set new Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates is pandemic era data. So nobody really knows what those rates are going to be that are going to be reset in February of 2025. So, and many people have asked, like, well, what does the future look like? And my crystal ball ends in February of 2025. If anybody can tell us what the federal government is going to vote to do in February of 25, please let me know. But that could be a cliff for us. It could be a windfall for us. What we know is that the data that they're collecting is not good data. EMS does.
What do you mean by not good data? It's not reliable, or it's not?
So
it's not.
Yeah.
Good looking.
So it's not the same as it is post-pandemic.
I see.
Because they're taking the data from during the pandemic, and what we know from an industry perspective is the cost of labor increased 25% post-pandemic. So the data set that they're using was coming in during a period where the call volume was very strange because of the pandemic. It was being subsidized heavily by federal plans like CARES and ARPA money. So they're taking a data set from like the most unusual period in healthcare, and that's what they're going to use to set the rates for the next 2 decades. So that's why I keep telling people, like, I have no idea what that's going to look like. Is that going to be better or worse? We know what's happening in February of 2025. We're crossing our fingers that it's helpful, but rarely do I ever look to the federal government for something helpful.
So if someone from the public wants to participate in VEMSA education,
Yep.
I mean, are there prerequisites, you know, like prior knowledge that people need to have before they could apply to take that training?
So depends on which training. So we have everything from We have community first aid CPR classes. We have what's called a Vermont Responder class, which is an entry level. So if there's somebody in town that wants to join the fire department, they can come take what we call a VFR class. It's a 2-day class, and that will get them a medical license to start practicing in Vermont. And then the next level of certification is what we call EMR, Emergency Medical Responder. That also does not have any prerequisites. That class will last about 3 months. And then we have our Emergency Medical Technician that does not have any prerequisites. You can come into that as a new person and become an EMT. And then when you get to the advanced EMT, the paramedic, the critical care, well, then you have to, the prerequisite is that you have to have one of the lower certifications first.
So is all that information on the rescue website?
Yeah, it's on rescues or at VEMSA.org, which is VermontEMSacademy.org.
All right.
And we do classes not only at our academy in Newfane. We have an entire facility there. We also have a facility in Keene that we're teaching out of, and we also do mobile classes for anybody that, you know, if there's businesses that want first aid and CPR, we're out doing those every day too. So
that was my other question. It wasn't a question, it's just a comment. It's very cool that Vermont has a model that it's pushing around and trying, experimenting with. It will be probably sizable to other communities and other states, other areas. So bravo to you. That's good work.
I have a question. What is the protocol working with the fire department, either paid or volunteer, as far as who gets the 911 call and how is it delegated?
So 911, where the 911 call goes is actually up to the Selectboard. So
The fire department.
in this case in Guilford, the 911 call for EMS ends up going to Keene Mutual Aid. And Keene Mutual Aid actually does the dispatching for Guilford Fire as well as for us. So we're dispatched at the exact same time for all of those calls. There are some towns that we have protocols with where, so for example, Hinsdale, New Hampshire, where they only go to certain types of calls. So again, that's an arrangement between us and the Select Board and the fire department where they only go to life-threatening emergencies. And we have other towns that do something similar. Here in Guilford, Guilford goes to every call that we go to. We meet and work with them regularly. Most recently, we're working on an update to our response to potential violent patients after a series of incidents in the region where providers were put at risk. We're working with all of the fire departments, including Guilford, to come up with, and we'll be instituting a new protocol for dispatch of potentially violent scenes because of some of the challenges getting law enforcement response.
I understand.
So,
okay, we need to move ahead. Are there further questions?
yep.
Okay.
Anything that you guys need, please ask Gordon. He represents you, does a great job representing you.
Thank you. Great report.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time, Drew. Thank you for being here.
Thanks very much. Let's see, Carol, who's on the screen here. Glad you're here. Carol, we need to ask you to use the 3 dots somewhere on your personal screen to change your name so we can see your last name as well for record keeping. If that doesn't happen fairly soon, then we'll need to move you into the waiting room. It's just a protocol we use here so we can do proper record keeping. Thanks. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll move ahead now in the updates to the town administrator, Erica. Guess you're here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I have been very busy these last few weeks getting ready for our meeting on Monday about the capital asset management program for the next 5 years. Hopefully people will come out to the school. Postcards were mailed out to everybody. You did? I got mine on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They were mailed on Friday, so that was great. What else? Getting ready, preparing for that. We have a Wyndham Regional Commission is having a public hearing, and I didn't write down the date, but they are just processing our updated town plan, and that involves a public hearing. So you'll be hearing about that pretty soon. Those two things. We have been very busy in the town office here as people are coming in to pay their taxes all day. Just a reminder, those taxes are due on Monday, the 16th. The town office will be open from 7 to 5. And after that, if you haven't paid your taxes, you get an 8% penalty. So come in and pay your property taxes. And if you haven't received your tax bill in the mail, you need to call our town treasurer, Ellie, or email her. Her information is on the website. Her phone number is also there. I can tell you right now. So Ellie will sort you out, but you need to get that in because taxpayers are responsible for get the town office getting their proper address. So if you haven't gotten your tax bill, please call us. Let's see, what else is going on? I spoke to a resident on East Mountain Road who is, like a lot of people all over town, very concerned about speeding on that road and just general unsafe driving. We talked a little bit about their options, you know, maybe putting up a little sign with a flag. I know I've seen a lot of them around, but generally people need to slow down when they're going down those dirt roads downhill, I think. So that's it, except for tonight's meeting. I've been doing a lot of researching on topics with VLCT, speed limits, road renaming, and art in the right-of-way of the town highway.
Art?
Art.
We're going to be talking about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Coming soon. And that's it for me right now.
All right,
All my report has to say.
All right, thank you. Hannah, I also see a question in the chat, and Hannah, I'll just, we will be addressing that a little bit later in the meeting, so hopefully you heard an answer. All right, thank you very much, Erica. So we'll turn to Dan for a highway report, please.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. The paving on the hollow is all done. They got shouldered on one side. They're waiting for a rainy day to come in and finish the other shoulder, the other side. We're doing culverts. We've been blowing a lot of leaves because this time of year when you get the heavy rains, they plug up your ditches, and so we'll be blowing leaves and so snow flies, grading roads. Probably another week or so we'll start getting plow frames on trucks, start getting ready for winter.
Okay.
Other than that, we've just been doing our routine stuff. So.
All right.
And the rain, this last week we got 2 inches of rain again, and you don't want to get a road fixed up and then the potholes are right back again. So.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy? Any questions for either Erica or Dan? Okay. Thanks very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to old business then, folks, in the agenda. The first is to just restate what Erica just stated, that there on next Monday, October 16th, there will be a public hearing and sharing meeting about the capital asset management program. That's going to be, we're looking at the possibility of changing the name of the capital improvement plan, and the reason for that is because the capital improvement plan that we hold, have been working with the last 5 years, addresses some of Guilford's assets, but not all of Guilford's assets. And so we're trying to look at a plan that might actually address all of our assets so that we can create reasonable reports for the community about all of our assets and not those just in the plan, in the capital improvement plan. And so what this discussion on Monday night will be about is looking at the larger scope of our assets and then tracking those, giving examples of tracking those assets through the process that we see going forward so that we can create a good, strong report once we've been through a fiscal year. The plan that we have that we're working toward will be built on a lot of different resources, not only the resources of the original needs assessment, but also on the different ways in which accounting needs to be done for all of these different assets. And I think it's really important to say two things. One is that this is a very complicated business. It's not simple. It's not like our personal checkbooks, adding and subtracting dollars. There's lots of information to take and put into situations. And I think we can acknowledge that over the last 5 years, we've learned a lot about how we can create a stronger method of reporting back to the town, and that's part of our addition. The other thing I think that I want to state is that we intend for this meeting to be very forward-looking. This will not be a rehash of past issues. We've learned a lot over the last 5 years. We don't need to readdress any issues at this point, because everything is going to be forward-looking and planning for a future that will make a lot of sense for us. So that's the extent of what we will plan to be doing at the meeting on Monday night. Erica, do you have anything else you want to offer to that? Is that pretty reasonable?
That sounds good. It is in the cafeteria of Guilford Central School. So you'll just go in the front doors and I will have some directional cones set up for you. It's pretty close to the front door of the school, so that's at 6:30 on Monday.
I see that Tammy's hand is up. I'll take a question.
There's the question from Hannah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tammy?
Okay. So my question was, actually I have two questions. Monday night's meeting, are we going to be able to ask questions and have them answered, or is this going to be just providing information?
I think we'll definitely, we'll be providing information, and definitely there will be opportunity to ask questions. Whether we'll have good answers or not, I'm not sure. We'll do our best. But it's not going to be just an information passage. It's also going to be hearing from the public as well.
Sounds good. And then my next question, the capital improvement plan, the way it is right now, is what it states, a capital improvement plan. You're talking about providing a report, but a report is different than a plan. A plan is, this is what we want to do, and this is how we intend on doing it. A report is just stating what we've done. So they're two totally different things, in my opinion. So I'm confused. Why are we not going to pursue the plan versus just reporting on what we've done?
Maybe I misstated, Tammy, because we will be creating a plan. There's no question. This process also includes creating a plan to go forward that's built on what we've learned and built on the prior needs assessment and all of that, and looking at all the current, where things stand currently. There will be a plan as part of this going forward.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments here from the select board?
Will people be able to zoom in?
Yes, the meeting will be, we'll run it as a Zoom meeting, but it'll be a little different than a select board meeting in that there won't be, the agenda will be a little more free, but the protocols will remain the same. We'll probably not enter into broad discussions for long periods of time.
What time is that?
Huh?
What time is it?
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, same as our regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. In the cafeteria of the school.
Thank you.
All right. Then I think we can move on to the traffic speeds. This is old business, and I want to just lay it out on the table that we have two topics here. One is to talk about the speed limits throughout town and what authority the select board has or doesn't have to address those issues. Erica's been doing a lot of research and talking with the experts at the state level to let us know what we can and cannot do. And then we'll also talk about the speed control radar signs that we currently have in place and about the potential of perhaps getting more of those in town. So, Erica, do you want to, I think it might make sense if you would just let us, maybe I should just quickly state what I understand, and correct me where I am wrong, okay? My understanding is that the select board in Guilford, we have a state highway running through town, so we have no control over anything about that road as far as speeds are concerned. We can appeal to the state and we can make recommendations, but we don't have authority to change any of those. Then when it comes to our paved roads, we have more authority to address the speed limits, but changes from any current standing of a speed limit can only be made after studies are done and in consort with the state. So we're not free to just change the speed limits on our paved roads. On our town roads, I think we have more liberty to set the speed limits there. Is that, am I correct there?
I think the town roads, being the paved roads and the unpaved roads, the select board has the same authority to do that, but in either case it does require a study, a traffic study, which is not quite the same as the state coming and doing the audit, the traffic safety audit. It's not quite the same thing.
Yeah. So the audit is what we recently responded to after a 5-year kind of a quiet period. We got some new signs and some new information, and that was after an audit that they had done.
Yeah. So I got this guide for Vermont towns for setting speed limits, and there's really good tips in here, basically guidelines and a way for anyone to do a traffic engineering report for a speed limit, and it involves observation of the road and actually driving a car on the road and seeing how far you need to stop and things like that. It's kind of funny that that's how they do it, but so that's the study that they're talking about. So the select board would need to somehow initiate a study like that and submit the results to the state and submit the speed limit that the select board thinks should be on a certain road. And there are recommendations too in this guide, like the state doesn't recommend lowering the speed limit on dirt roads lower than 35, even though logic would say maybe they should be some places, but the state.
And the reason, I'm sorry to interrupt,
yeah, it's
the reason for that is
I think just to make it not look like the speeds are being set capriciously. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they want to be consistent and logical, and people want to, for the most part, you want the majority of drivers to be naturally driving the right speed.
So it sounds like
their idea.
On the dirt roads in Guilford, our speed limit tends to be 35. That's the recommendation.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that in most towns of Vermont, that there's an expectation that when you're on a dirt road, you can drive 35 miles an hour. That's kind of expected. Except in Brattleboro, it's 25 for a lot of their dirt roads. So they must have done a study and made some recommendations.
And so I'm sorry to, if we want to provide a comment about the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on the so-called gravel roads, would we talk to Sarah Coffey, who's the chair of the Transportation Department, and or is this just sort of a done deal and we all know it's crazy to drive at 35 miles an hour on this road, but we want to be consistent in our signage?
Yes, that's a Department of Transportation thing, and I think the select board can change it, but there are some very strong recommendations here against changing one road to one thing and one road to another thing.
I think that this 2016 Setting Speed Limits Guide
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of answers in it.
What I'm looking at right now.
But it's a lot to read, so.
Yes, and
Yeah.
so once we get to that, and if the select board does decide to change a speed limit on a road, any road, then we'd have to go through a process of updating our traffic ordinance, which is a process of public hearings and public review of the ordinance to be changed.
I think the only lower speed limit we have is over in Green River Village. And I think it's from Kratz's Bridge down through the village is 25. And then down through the covered, if you go through the covered bridge and down River Road, probably about, I think it's 500 yards below the bridge is 25. If you were coming back up.
Stretch. Yeah,
But there is 2 spots in town that the speed limit is lower.
And Dan, how did that come about?
That's something that was years ago they set up, way back when. I know when we went around and we re-signed everything, the select board way back years ago wanted to have all your dirt roads at 25. And as Erica said, the state said, they made a recommendation, no, leave them at 35. The village would be a 25 speed zone. So that's why all the roads got posted for 35 mile an hour.
So I'm just interested to know, personally, I'm interested in responding to some of the requests, especially on a few of our paved roads, that there's requests just as we got today for people driving very fast, which of course there's no way in which we can stop people from driving fast altogether. But if speed limits were a little lower on some of the roads, we would, I think that most people tend to drive, at least from the data we've collected, tend to drive 10 miles over a speed limit is what we're sort of finding. So if we were to lower some of the speed limits on some of our areas, it might reduce the general speed in some parts of our town. I don't know whether it's worth it us looking into this. I think if we were going to go any distance, I think what I'd recommend is that we not try to do it all 5 of us together, but that we would set up a subcommittee to do some research for us. Beyond what Erica can do, some of the driving, some of the thinking about this, and then come back with a recommendation. How does something like that sit with the select board? Or I'm also open to the idea that things are in good state in the state of Guilford, and we want to leave them this way. Are there thoughts, reactions?
Just wonder if there is anything else we can do other than posting.
Yes, this is just one, this would be, in my view, this is just one of the options that we can consider. One is posting the speed limits, one is the speed control radar signs, and a third option, which the select board chose not to use a while back, was to hire a police presence in town. We know the cost for that, and it's something that we chose not to do a while back. The select board did about 2 years ago, I think. So that's another option. I think those are the 3 immediate options, or the 3 areas I think we can make control differences.
Do we already know the areas of the roads that people are most concerned about, or is that something that we need to find out, like investigate further? Where's the most speeding happening? Where are people complaining about the most? Because I think we need to start there.
I mean, anecdotally, I think we can start with there are about 3 or 4 places in town that we know are the places that people are reporting the higher speeds.
Right.
Yeah, and so
So we just put it out there to people to like email select board members if there's any other areas.
maybe that might be a good way for us to do some anecdotal.
Now, what is
if we're going to continue to
feeling? What are your feelings, and where are people speeding in your neck of the woods type thing?
Right, we already had one citizen come here and report on the Weatherhead Hollow Road, and he frequently has things to say in Discover Guilford about people's driving on that road. And I guess, so perhaps we should broadcast, in some way, what are the roads we already know for sure about, and then request other other input.
Well, I'll say that the reports I get that I've heard about are Weatherhead Hollow Road, Hinesbrook Road, and then Slate Rock Road are probably the three that I would report on. I don't know, are there others?
How about Guilford Center Road?
You got the center road.
The Center Road, yeah.
All
Yeah.
paved roads.
You know, so I guess essentially all the paved roads.
Well, no, Slate Rock is not a paved road.
No, Slate Rock is not a paved road.
It
But people
is
are
way
concerned about
not.
that one, right?
Right.
Maybe down
Could you
on
speed on Slate Rock Road?
Route 5.
Yeah.
It's probably
It's kind of
Route
a downhill
5.
direction.
Route 5, we don't have any control over.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can't do anything about it. We can appeal, but we haven't had, we don't have authority to do anything about that.
But the setting speed limits, it says anyone can compile information, but then in order to change speed limits, we need to get an engineer. But anybody can compile data.
Is there, and I mean, I've just been trying to absorb all this. I imagine we need a consistent process to compile the data. And, you know, I guess I'm thinking of a both and situation where perhaps, and I'm not sure how we would make these decisions separately or consider them together. We could certainly consider having a speed control radar sign on Weatherhead Hollow Road, and perhaps one on this speedy section of Guilford Center Road. I don't know about putting them on gravel roads. That just seems.
I'm more inclined to focus on finding ways to enforce or encourage people to stay at the speed limit.
At the speed
than
limit,
changing
right.
the speed limit.
Then changing. So more toward the radar signs.
Yes,
would be the
that's what
direction
I'm
I'd
going
go,
towards.
Little,
Dusty.
little ACDC movie.
Oh, we needed a break.
Okay, so are there other people who feel like Michael does? I mean, that would be the direction for us to go initially. I mean, maybe what's true about setting up this control radar signs is that they would provide us the data that we're looking for, rather than us depending on developing some sort of consistent way to get it from the community. I'm not saying
Yeah, I
we won't
like
get
that.
it.
I do
So-
too.
I personally don't feel that I have the time to be driving around and collecting data in my phone.
And I don't think changing the speeds is gonna make a big difference.
Okay. Well, it might, but just enforcing what we have.
Yeah.
But also we collect the data from those signs and then we can go further if we need
All right.
to.
Okay. I'm going to take a couple of comments from the community here, and then let's be formulating some kind of a motion for these radar signs about what we need to do here.
Do we need to have a motion on the floor before we have public comment or not?
No, I'm going to break the rules this evening.
Oh,
Yes, we
okay.
normally
Wow.
do for our protocols, but they're not tight. There are protocols. So I'm going to ask Hannah to speak for a moment, for 3 minutes. Hannah. Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hello again? Sorry, Hannah, she's right near that translator station.
Well, that's nothing to do with the internet.
Get out of work. Okay, sorry, Hannah, we can't hear you right now. Let's go to Barry, and then
I
Hannah
wonder
will try
if
you,
she
and
could
we'll
put
try
her
again.
question in the chat.
Yeah, maybe put your comments in the chat if you'd like, and then we'll go on to Barry.
Yeah, so what I have to say is, seems like it's already the direction of the select board, but I was just going to underscore the value of those speed radar signs, the systems. I learned several years ago that is maybe anecdotally or proven to be the most cost-effective method of slowing down the speed. I know it works with those two signs coming into Algiers Village, at least somewhat. It's still a big problem given the foot traffic and bike traffic in Algiers. but those two signs certainly make people pump the brake a little bit as they come down the hill, particularly. And the other benefit of that is that it can be a very quick and easily identified step that, yes, we're taking measures at these problem places, as opposed to a study, which eventually will be good, but then we're talking about a delay, and then the study, and then the analysis, and then action from the study. If the select board could find the resources to put up a couple of those speed radar signs in those problem places, at least the perception will be, we've taken action, you've taken action, and that's a good step. And then again, we all know they're very effective. So I'm just putting in my vote for that as a first step in those problem areas. I think it would be really helpful to us all.
Okay, thank you. Good,
Thank you.
good, Barry, thank you. And then I'm going to read Hannah's questions. Does anyone have costs for the signs and or engineering studies? The answer is at least partly yes. And also, is it fruitful to change speed limits when we don't currently have active enforcement in town? And I think that's another question that I think the sense I get is maybe not. Maybe not to go to that trouble right now. The place to put our energies, I'm feeling, is in these radar signs. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah.
If you put radar signs up, they're going to want to be stationed there all the time. You don't want to bounce them around. You just want to put up permanent ones.
Okay. All right. And then take them down at some point. You don't.
No, leave them. If you're gonna spend the money, you might as well do like we did on Route 5 and put them up permanently, so they're there.
Instead of moving them. Okay.
It's either that, or you're gonna have to hire law enforcement to a little present to people will see, and maybe they'll slow up a little bit.
Okay. I have a question about those signs. I mean, I think they're great, but I'm just wondering, in really bad weather, do the signs still work if we're having like sleet, stuff like that?
Yeah.
We've ones on Route 5 have been here in a big snowstorm last week.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any.
Nobody's collided with them?
No.
Right.
And they email me when they're out, which happens sometimes at odd times, usually in the middle of the night. Maybe it's a maintenance thing, I don't know. But I do get emails when they go out, and then I check on them and they're back. So.
Okay, so let's see. As we address the issue about the radar signs. Let's see, I think we know what the costs are for those.
Yes.
And so Erica can talk us through that. But I think maybe it'd be smart to get, let's talk for a moment about how many of these signs we might want. Do we want to go incrementally? Do we want to go full force? The information about costs will help us make a decision, but anybody want to say?
Go ahead.
I would propose we buy 2 sets of them, or at least work towards that. And I'm not sure we can do that this evening, but in future select board meetings.
So you're saying 2 sets, 4?
Well, a set is 2, right? They need to be
one in each direction.
One in each direction.
Okay.
So kind of the same setup we have, but in 2 additional locations.
Do you have costs? Can you?
Yeah, they are, as of August 10th, they're $2,999 each, plus some installation hardware that are $200 a piece. So each one is
about 3,000.
Yeah, just a little bit over 3,000. And for a pair, the total cost I was quoted in August was $6,566 for 2. And they come with 1 year of the cloud service, which we are now using for the existing ones. We have a 7-year contract for the existing ones, so I could, once we start this process, maybe request
put it together
that for new ones.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have, when we're sorting through this decision, I wonder if we priced out 2 sets or 3 sets, you know, whether they have a volume discount.
Yeah.
If we have 3 problem roads, do we want to make that investment instead of ignoring one of the roads for thrift?
Then, you say that you were looking into some grant options for these signs, like 6 weeks ago? Did I? That would be, I had responded to, somebody that I think that we were, grants for the traffic signs.
That would be a really good thing to look into. I haven't specifically explored grant for that purpose. They are not in our budget for this year, although a possible source of funds could be general reserve or highway reserve. Those funds have.
Is this something that the select board could apply for ARPA funds for?
We have control over how those dollars are spent, so we don't have to apply to ourselves if we decide. I'm not sure that what we'd have to determine is if those can be, if ARPA dollars can be applied to that kind of use. And
I think that we should look into that because it's definitely a huge issue in town and something that people are really coming and having us to do something about.
I agree. We want to get something done here. So I think
Hannah made one more comment. I think we had those traffic studies done, right?
Yes.
We have had some on, there's one been done on Guilford Center Road and one in Algiers. So I can request others for sure.
Sometimes perception of speed isn't actually a reality. That's a good point.
That's right.
Okay, well, it seems to me that I don't know that any action is required of the select board tonight. I think we need to get more information about quotes on the actual costs of those, and then also whether or not we can apply ARPA dollars to that. And then we would need to make a decision about which roads we're going to put those on, and I think that's a decision we all should make together if we can do that. If somebody has a compelling reason not to do one or another, does that seem reasonable?
It seems that the sense of the board's direction is pretty clear.
Yes.
I just want to offer up where I think just to share. It's like Heinsberg Road, Weathered Hollow Road, and then Guilford Center Road below the Evans Farm, heading towards the store, like on the flat, like near the power line pull off.
Oh, right there. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
That's what I would say. But I think
after the turn,
after the Evans Farm, like the straightaway going towards the store.
Okay.
I think
it is 45 there. The speed limit is 45, which is interesting to me.
It changes very quickly. There's a 35 to 45.
At Tater Lane,
maybe this is when we can get some feedback from the community, like between now and the next meeting, and then we can discuss where we think they should go.
Yeah.
And we'll have more information about ARPA.
Okay.
Because if we can apply ARPA money, it would be better to get 3, like Brenda said, I think.
3 sets.
Yeah.
It might be better to get 3 in any case. Depending on the reserves, we can look at the reserves and see what's available.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry. Steve Lemke, Green River. Along with what you said, Terry, it's not sometimes just how fast people go on the road, it's what's happening on the road. So the area that you're talking about is right by Steve Szynski's house, and there's a lot of animal connectivity right there. So we have had a number of animal hits there that have been substantial. So there are different reasons to slow people down. Yeah. So that's another reason to get input from the public.
Interesting.
I actually hit baby ducks there.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful.
All right, this is a good discussion, folks. Thank you very much. I think we can take this and move forward with some more
I just had one more question.
Yes.
Is how will we organize community input on this? Is this just
I think
somebody putting a note on, let's say, Discover Guilford saying?
no, I think
that-
I would recommend that people not do it that way,
Okay.
but to have a conversation with, just tell us the information you want the select board to know. Be in touch with any one of us.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I think that's probably the information is more cogent as a rule that way, and more direct, easier for us to deal with. Okay, thank you all very kindly. Let's move on now to new business. So we're going to be considering grader quotes this evening.
You have them.
I have them.
All right, you
Do you want to step up to the mic and read them out?
No, I'll let Zon do that.
Okay. So, let's see. Get down to the bottom line here. So Danny got quotes for 2 graders. One is from Milton Cat, and there's this one here. So note the trade in there.
Okay. The one from Milton Cat is the ultimate price for us would be $272,500. The top price prior to trade is $422,500 with a trade of $150,000 for the Caterpillar that we have now. So the final price would be $272,500.
And then another quote from John Deere.
And then a quote from John Deere is the ultimate price is $267,000. So about $4,500 less than the prior. And that the top price is $392 as opposed to $422. And a slightly smaller trade-in or a trade allowance of $125,000, ending at $267,000.
I'm making a recommendation, I'd like to stay with the Cat because we're getting more. It's down the road, it's going to be worth more. It's like it's just like you just read, we're only getting 125 from John Deere and 150 from Cat, and it's the same machine that we got. On that, either one of them graders, I'm keeping our front plow. I'm not getting a wing on it because we've only had the wing on the grader once since we've had it. For a wing, they're both going to be plumbed for a wing. So down the road, if we wanted to buy one, you're looking at about $30,000. So we got wings on all the trucks. We haven't, like I said, we haven't had a wing on the grader in years. We don't get the snow like we used to.
Yeah. Okay, so does everybody understand? Danny's recommending that we spend $4,500 more for the one and get a larger trade-in value.
And Dan, don't they have like excellent customer service? Like 24 hours you can call and they'll walk you through any problem with the machine?
And then also, that's got an extended, I'm a firm believer of extended warranties.
Okay, great.
So the extended warranty is included?
Everything's all included in that price.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept Dan's recommendation for the Caterpillar at the value of the cost of $272,500.
And it could take up to anywhere from 3 to 8 months for either machine to get it. So.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tara. All right, is there any discussion? I just want to make sure that the community hears that this is part of the budget and it's part of taking the cost are taken care of.
Yep.
Part of the capital.
Yeah, it's a capital reserve expense.
All right.
And the balance of the balance right now, we haven't added the annual $225,000 to the capital reserve fund yet. So the balance as of this moment and the end of fiscal year 2023 23,
Yeah.
sorry, was 400,061,958
Okay.
dollars. And so the balance of the capital reserve fund before the new annual addition and after the purchase of the grader would be 189,458. So, and then we're going to add 225 for capital reserve. Fully
Okay.
received.
All right. Okay, so it's that's an example there of the capital improvement plan drawing from multiple a different resource than might have been expended. So it's a good example of how we draw from different places to take care of the capital improvement plan.
And that capital improvement we've been using for buildings and equipment has been working.
It's been working well.
I mean, we started that way back in, I don't know, 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
So it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. I'll take a vote then. All those in favor of this purchase, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All set there. All right, the next item on the agenda is called the Listers, Errors, and Omissions. And this is an annual process the select board has to go through where each year there are a few adjustments to tax bills that were originally sent out. The select board has been able to look at those in our folder. In this case, they're all reductions in tax. And none of them together, all of them together won't change. They're not significant enough to change the tax rate or anything like that. But the select board is required to accept the Listers and Errors and Omissions report in order for us to go forward before new tax bills can be sent out. So to those folks with adjustments.
So I have a statement from Lisa Berry, the assessor clerk who did all the work on this, and Lisa says, so there were 6 entries into this errors and omissions certificate. That is a certificate that goes to the state after the select board signs it. One of them is the result of multiple subdivisions happening that resulted in an additional 1.5 acres being assessed with this one particular house. So that person got a reduction in their value because they don't have that 1.5 acres. And the rest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, are the result of a state change in the way they want listers to value solar arrays. Lisa had been operating under the assumption that solar arrays that are for the purpose of selling the electricity back should be assessed as commercial, and the state clarified that no, that is not the case. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different property owners got a reduction from commercial to just a private solar array. And that's the extent of this certificate.
All right, so is there well, I'll move to accept this report from our assessor clerk, this list of errors and omissions.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any further discussion? Okay.
I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I'd be curious, although I don't need to know it right this second, about what the reason was for redesignating them from commercial to private when they're selling electricity.
I think, according to Lisa, that it has something to do with the state wanting people to utilize underutilized land. So they didn't want to penalize them by charging them for commercial properties when they were just using land that might not be used otherwise.
Okay.
So that's the logic.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, thank you. We'll move ahead to the next topic called correction of town meeting errors and omissions. This comes from a letter that we received from Rick Zamor about correspondence he's had with a member of the community, a couple of members of the community, about some issues that happened at our last town meeting. And so Rick has responded to at least the initial request, and there's a, let's see how to say this. Help me with this, Erica, but I think that what we need to say is that Rick made decisions as town moderator, as is his job to do at the town, at the meeting. And some of those decisions came under question in this letter. Nothing was harmed, nothing was done incorrectly that caused the town meeting to go awry or anything like that. So the questions that will come forward, that came forward and might continue to come forward, to be part of this conversation will be part of the conversation. They don't need to be addressed this evening. What needs to be addressed this evening is that we as the select board are going to adopt a resolution, I hope, that simply says that from our point of view, the last town meeting was able to move forward and that the business of the town has in fact been handled as a town meeting should be. Does that make sense?
I would move that.
All right. I think we should read the resolution aloud into the record. It's not really long.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, Veronica.
Because you just had, oh.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
Okay. Resolution. Whereas on September 21st, 2023, Town Moderator Rick Zamor notified the Select Board that he had made 2 mistakes in moderating the Town of Guilford 2023 town meeting held on March 7th, 2023. Whereas Moderator Zamor did not properly respond to 1, an objection to consideration relative to Article 5, and 2, a request to divide the question during the discussion of the general fund. Whereas the mistakes were inadvertent and were not the result of an unlawful notice or warning or non-compliance with the scope of the warning. Whereas pursuant to 17 VSA 2662, errors or omissions in the conduct of an original meeting that are not the result of an unlawful notice or warning or non-compliance with the scope of the warning may be cured by a resolution of the legislative body of the municipality by a vote of 2/3 of all of its members at a regular meeting, stating that the defect was the result of oversight, inadvertence, or mistake. Whereas the Select Board desires to cure the mistakes made by the moderator Zamor through this resolution by a vote of 2/3 of its members pursuant to 17 VSA 2662. Now therefore be it resolved that the errors or omissions in the conduct of the Town of Guilford 2023 town meeting were the result of mistake and were not the result of an unlawful notice or warning or non-compliance with the scope of the warning, and resolved that pursuant to 17 VSA 2662, the errors or omissions are hereby cured by this resolution approved by a 2/3 vote of all Select Board members at a regular meeting.
Thank you. So you moved this already.
I did.
Was there a second? Will there be a second? Thank you, Michael. All right. Is there any discussion? Any further questions or discussion about this here at the Select Board? Any in the community? All right, I'll take a vote then to adopt this resolution. All those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, unanimous vote. Thank you. Thanks very much. All right, now the next order of business is for the select board to take up this question of potential renaming of South Stoney Hill Road. There's a request coming from the community, from the Belagors, for the select board to consider changing the name of the road. Their specific request, as you might have read in our notes, is that the entirety of that road be named. And by that entirety, it does not mean Stoney Hill Road coming from the north, but it means South Stoney Hill Road, which is less than half a mile long, and then the private road that continues on in to the Viking Village. And the question that Eric and I were talking about recently is whether or not the select board has authority to, well, we can consider the naming of a public road. I don't know that the select board has authority to name or rename a private road. And Erica can probably, if we have up-to-date information about that, we can probably hear that. And then we can figure out how we'd like to move forward here. What can you tell us?
I can tell you that the select board, hold on, let me just read it. Our recommendation, says VLCT, is for a select board to change the name of a town highway by simple majority vote after a public hearing. Sorry. So, the single person who has property on the private part of the road and who owns it can change the name of the road that they own. As for the town changing the private road, if the single person is in agreement with changing it to what the town wants, and the town wants to foot the bill for the work to get that done, e.g. signpost changing, then yes, there should be some agreement document about who is responsible for the road sign moving forward. If the town is going to change it, you should confirm it conforms with E911 regulations.
Okay, so all right, so what I understand then is the issues here are that we have authority to address the town road. If we're going to consider changing the private road, we would need to be in agreement with the Belagors, reach some sort of agreement. And it's information that plays into this decision is 911 information.
Yes, and to clarify, the select board can start the process, but there needs to be a public hearing.
There would need to be a public hearing, yeah. So there will be no name changing tonight. But I think probably what we need to determine is if it's something that the select board wants to begin, a process that we want to begin. There are a couple of ways we could do that. We can have the discussion and determine that yes, we want to have a hearing. We could do that this evening if we want. Or I'm more inclined to do a little bit more research and a little bit more talking with folks before we make that decision about, yes, let's have a public hearing. And so I would like to propose as one step, potential step is that we have a subcommittee that would do a little bit more talking and then make a recommendation back to the board. Or we can just, we can not act, would be another option if we felt like we didn't want to change the name at all, if we're clear about that.
So the concern is that South Stoney Hill is getting confused with Stoney Hill.
It's not, yeah, it's a fact.
Right.
Okay. It's even had 911 implications.
And for some background there, the state 911 coordinator has all the proper directions. There's directions associated with every address, and the directions are all right. So nobody should be going the wrong way, just the confusion possibly is that the roads have the same name.
Yeah, one of those funny...
Spelled differently.
Yeah, spelled differently. Yes. One of those funny, curious little anecdotes, when that name came up, whoever named it, whatever select board chose to name it, there's actually a guidance that says you shouldn't name two roads with similar names. So maybe that didn't exist at the time. It was
we
named
have a few of those in Guilford.
Yeah. So there's some similarities there probably. Not that I want to go around adjusting street names in order to road names in order to clarify things, but what's the board's feeling? Yeah, 1 second, please. I'll be with you in a second. Thank you very much. What's the board's feeling here?
Could we revisit the history a little bit? There was a short length of town road, very short.
There is
a turnaround.
It is.
And that is still the case?
Yes.
How long is that bit of
Oh, a
town?
little over 100 feet.
Yeah, it's not long.
So that never
It's not very
changed.
long.
No,
Right.
Yeah. So there haven't been any changes to any of the road names. There've only been additions of like when the road that goes by Viking Village, depends on what map you're looking at, but it has a similar name.
I don't see a problem as long as to avoid 911 and the confusion of the two streets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why we shouldn't change it.
Well, also, if tourists are coming to our town, part of being a welcoming town, which is one of our select board goals, is not to befuddle people who are coming to enjoy themselves and spend their money here on a vacation.
Right.
Would there be an obligation to have two signs 100 feet apart from one another? One for the
There has to be a road and a drive.
So the public road, and then one for the private?
We can agree on the name.
Huh?
We can reconcile that.
There might be, as it stands now, there would need to be a sign for a drive, which is not a public road.
And the town is obligated to supply signs for private roads?
I thought it said an agreement with,
If we're willing to
there would be an agreement.
some sort of an agreement.
Sort of.
And so is the idea to have the same name?
That's the Bellegore's wishes, I think. Yeah.
Do we have any other roads in town that are
Public and private with similar same names?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, we do. There are a few.
Like what? Sorry.
Belden.
Oh, Belden Hill.
Belden and Spring Hill.
Oh, I see, where the two roads,
It's just-
the public,
it's a
one is
continuation.
a road
Private
and
is
one is a drive.
And you got Bullock Road, and it turns into Bullock Drive.
Drive.
So we could make it what the Bellegores want, and one of them be a road and one of them be a drive.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Well, I had a question before we, did you, were you suggesting that we have a subcommittee to review this and come back to the select board with recommendations?
That would be one option for us, and I actually would recommend that because I think there are a few pieces and parties of information that need to be kind of talked through, and it would just actually it'd be good if we would do that work. Yeah. So yes, that would be my suggestion, but that's not required. Let's talk now, let's hear from Roman Nemeth.
Yeah, hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Right. So I'm insulted again as a butter to the road, Stoney Hill Road, which last time with Paul, you approved his improvements on the road without our knowledge. And I see the same situation here.
No.
Without our, and most of the South Stone Hill Road goes through our property, hence the butter. and we don't know anything about it. And what I hear, you are already discussing how to do it rather than if to do it. Secondly, there is a history in there, in Guilford, and there is not Viking history in Guilford. It's a business of one man, Paul, in the Viking village. And he wants to adjust everything towards his one goal is the business, rather than checking or caring rather for the community and its history. As you probably know, and you have that map hanging out in the office, how the Stoney Hill Road goes for hundreds of years. There are memorials for example, one lady crashed there in 1850s. There is little memorial. And now we would have to call it Viking something or private road, which is not. We live on that road last 20 years. And now why we would need to change it? Because one-man business, and he already is angling, as you know, to change the road. Although we sold him property for the very purpose so he can build his own private road, which he started and abandoned because I have no idea why. And now he's pushing us to abandon our house for his benefit. So I totally oppose him for a number of reasons. For the name, first of all, that we were not even involved in this process to start with, not been notified. Secondly, there is a history which would be lost for good. Secondly, thirdly, there is no established business. Viking Village just started. There's no established business to have the authority, feel the rights to ask for it. It's part of his business plan, true. But why did we need to impact the whole community because of his business decisions? And they are not even established, it's starting. And again, fourthly, we sold him the land for the very purpose, which, by the way, he did lie to you, telling that he was communicating to us back then, which he didn't. I have that proof to that. And now we are in a similar kind of situation, hopefully not going that far, to accommodate his wishes for no particular reason beyond his own private or business needs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nemeth.
Can I make a comment?
Let me just say one thing. Yes, we'll let you in a second. I just want to clarify, so you're really clear that, Mr. Nemeth, the only time that we as a select board can even discuss this at any level, no matter what we're talking about, we have to do it in a setting like this. So of course questions are going to come out about what would it look like, what it might be. I expected these kinds of questions. Before we consider doing this at all, there will be a public hearing at which you would have an opportunity to come and speak forcefully. You would be notified as an abutter. There's statute that guides all of this, and we will definitely abide by all of that as we go forward, if we go forward. So I would just want to assure you that we're not here to make decisions against anything. It's the only time that we have it as a group that we can even air any of our own thoughts and questions about this, and that's what's happening here right now. So
yeah, I totally understand. I just wanted to put my thoughts in the mix, so we are not abandoned, like you already mentioned. It's Belogor's wishes. They don't even live there. It's their business wishes.
Thank you.
Their private interests.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Paul?
I think our wishes are not really Belogor's wishes. I think it's safety of the public. And as you just said, around the welcoming town. 4 days ago, an elderly couple made a wrong turn. Instead of South Stoney Hill, they went to Stoney Hill Road. They got disoriented, upset, scared. For the first time, they were on the dirt road.
Yeah.
And about a mile later, they came in front of the just deep woods. They couldn't turn around. There was no phone connection, etc., etc. I think the safety of the public is a concern, not Belogor's concern. We do have a business. We are trying to help the town with taxes, with employment. So yes, we do. Is that new business? It is new business. Will it be lasting for the next 10, 20, 30 years? I don't know. But it is a business. It's an ongoing concern. And the biggest concern right now is to make sure the public that comes to visit Guilford does not find itself in a position where they get scared. Simple as that. And there is no connection, there's no phone connection, there's no internet. They have to go back to the paved road, start making phone calls. They're upset. You know, that's not a welcoming thing. So I think what we're trying to do here is not really say Brattleboro's Way or Viking Way or Viking Village. We tried to name this road different from South Stoney Hill Road, that's all. I did not make an attempt to make the road sound different. I'm sorry, sound my way. It's Brattleboro Way or the Viking Way. Anything better than what it is right now. So, and that's what I'm trying to say here. And the safety of the public is my main concern. You know, and I do believe, you know, the abutter who is barely there, practically never there, you know, and then groups of people visiting the Viking Village and Guilford, to me, is probably more important, especially their safety. And speaking of that, not only I am concerned about the South Stoney Hill Road, but I'm also working with Dan to put the rail guardrail on both sides of the road, so people at night don't go into the brook. That's another thing that I'm doing at my own expense to make sure that people that visit Guilford are safe.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Can I make a suggestion?
Dan.
On Stoney Hill, up by Mary Gregg's, where Paul said the people kept going. If we put a sign up there saying not a through road, maybe that would discourage people knowing it's not a through road going over to his property from the back way. I think that would be something to try to solve the problem a little bit easier.
Okay, I'm not sure that even that requires, we can find out, but I'm not sure that even requires select board approval.
No, we could just
sign put up.
We could just put it up.
Okay. All right.
But I do think that having a, I mean, whether the road were called Viking something or just given a distinct name, I feel, I mean, I just remember my relatives trying to visit me in 1968, you know, like turn right at the apple tree.
Where the apple tree used to be.
Yeah, exactly. Or what is an apple tree? And, you know, just how discouraging it is for people who aren't familiar with the place to be in such uncertainty. And so I think that the request to have certainty, you know, and guardrails is a select board concern.
It's so true, Ron, and I just want to add one more time. We noticed 90% of people that visit Viking Village never were on the dirt roads. Yeah, 90%. So when they get lost, it gets even worse.
I mean, my poor mother, you know.
So I'm going to make a recommendation, or I'm going to make a motion that we form a little subcommittee, and I'm doing, I want to form a subcommittee. Well, we could lean on Erica to do this work. We've been, the town has just received a very substantial public records request that is going to require a lot of Erica's time in the next short while. And I would rather not have us just leaning on Erica for this work at this point. So I feel it's incumbent on us. If to move forward with this discussion, we need to form a subcommittee. So I'd like to make a motion that we form a subcommittee to move this discussion forward and look at the various issues that are related, and then come back with a findings or report or recommendation for the select board. So is there a second to a motion like that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rusty. So first let's see if we, if we're in agreement that that should happen. If we should, then we'll appoint 2 people, all right? So all those in favor of appointing a subcommittee, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right. Abstaining? All right. Okay, so it passed. 3 votes yes, 1 vote no, and 1 abstention. All right, so I'm happy to sit on a subcommittee like that. I'll take it. Is there another person that would volunteer to join me? Rusty, thank you very kindly. So now I'll make a motion to appoint myself and Rusty to serve as a subcommittee for the select board to address this issue.
I will second that.
All right, a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, thanks, Rusty. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Good way to move forward, I hope. All right, moving forward in the agenda, we will consider a Guilford Center Road solar system. And I think before we make a motion or anything, Kathy's still here. Kathy, would you be willing to just explain to us what you have in mind? It's probably a bit more formed than the last time we heard about it.
Solar system.
Here she comes. Hi, Kathy.
The library has a project that we'd like your help with. We'd like permission to install a series of signs that depict the solar system. It would begin at the fire station and end at the library. Most of the planets would be small, from the size of a marble, maybe the size of a soccer ball. They'd be mounted on stakes and they'd be set back from the road. I already talked with Danny and he said he'd be glad to look on the map with us and help us make sure we put them where they won't be plowed and they won't be whatever a road machine is going to do to a sign that's in the wrong place. And they'd be identified by the name of the planet only, and the written description of the project would be at the library and distributed to people so that people wouldn't stop to read a sign in the middle of Guilford Center Road.
One way to slow traffic.
And we think of this as a permanent installation, not art installation. And it's part of our project in recognizing the eclipses that are about to happen, one this Saturday and one in April. So that's our request. And
thank you.
While I'm here, just a reminder, we're having a sun party on Saturday from 12:13 to 2:31. That's the time of the eclipse. You're all welcome.
Thank you. Okay, I do have a question, Kathy, quickly. I'm just interested to know which end is going to be the sun. Is it the fire department or the library?
The sun, Pluto will be at the fire department.
Okay, so the
sun
library
will be at the library.
Okay. All right. Does everybody understand what they're asking? And we don't have any special authority here, except that we do need to approve it so that it can go forward as a project, because it will require, in case it requires any kind of oversight or management. And Eric has done the research to
VLCT says if it's considered art, it's fine. They do have issues with signage, placing signs by the road that might kind of look like directional signs or something like that. That is the highway department's jurisdiction, but not art exactly. But Danny will work with Kathy on placement of all these planets to make sure they're not in the way of any visibility or anything.
And that they're very arty.
Yeah, it seems like if all the pointing arrows were pointing up, then we'd be okay, right? Up into the sky.
Directional signs.
Yeah, directional signs. This is essentially the select board giving its blessing to a project like this. So I'll make that motion that we do so. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. there any further discussion?
Well, I think it's a good time for us to think about the solar system since Earth is so beleaguered.
Yeah. All right. All those, I will just say that I'm really heartened, of course, that the work is being done in consultation with our highway department to make sure that everything is appropriate and safe. So I appreciate that.
I know, and that our library is initiating this public project to raise consciousness.
Yeah, yeah. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you. All right. Now for this next, we're at the moment in 2 new employees' lives where we need to do 180-day staff reviews. We need to appoint another subcommittee. I'm happy to. I will be doing that. I will be doing that as chair, but I would like to have someone else join me. So, is there someone that we can make this motion all at once? Is there someone that would be willing to do? We need to do an evaluation for Erica and for Ellie.
I'd be willing to.
All right, Michael, thank you. Thanks, Rusty. And Rusty did it last time. I think it's good to pass it around a little bit. So that's great, Michael. Thank you. I'll make a motion then that we appoint myself and Michael to serve as a subcommittee for the select board to do these staff reviews and then provide a final report to the select board. Is there a second for that?
I would second it.
Thank you, Veranda. All right, is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you.
And we're lucky to have these employees.
Yeah, it does not stop. Yeah. All right, here we go. Yeah, one more time with an appointment of subcommittee. We have received. It's in your packet. We have received a funding request for ARPA dollars from the Historical Society, and we need a 2-person subcommittee to review this and report back to the select board with a report or a recommendation. You willing to do that, Tara? All right, is there someone else who's willing to step up?
I'll do it with Tara.
Okay, thank you. So I will once again make another motion that we appoint a subcommittee of Tara and Veranda to review the ARPA funding request from the Historical Society. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All right, is there any discussion about that? All right, all those in favor of the subcommittee appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You can say
Aye. Aye.
Yes.
I was just trying to find the ARPA.
Yeah, it's in there. Okay, good. And so that would be great if we could have that report back at the next meeting if possible.
Sure.
But if
we
not,
can do
let me
that.
know. All right. Okay. All right. And if there are any questions you have, be in touch. All right.
Okay. So who are the contact people?
It probably says in there.
Oh, okay.
Carol
Stack and Richard? Okay.
All right, now we can move on, folks. Thank you very kindly for this action here. Let's move on to the Finance Department, the warrants. Sarah.
Okay, I move to accept the warrants as written.
Okay, so tell us what they are.
Payroll week 10/1/23 is $6,336.90. Payroll for week 10/8/2023 is $7,227.23. We have an expense warrant number 2407 for $35,867.76. We have an expense warrant number 2407B for $1,123.72. An expense warrant number 2407F for $69.50 for a total of $50,625.11.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion, anything you want to highlight for us?
Just mostly repairs again, gravel, payroll, insurances, nothing out of the ordinary.
All right, any discussion at the select board? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you very much. There's no other business this evening, and so that I'm aware of. Well, let's move on then to correspondence.
I do have that printed out here. I can speak to that briefly. We have a citizen who wrote to the select board expressing their concern about the narrowness of the Senator Hunt Road, and has just asked us to look into whether it's appropriate for that road to remain a 2-lane road at this point.
So is there, we're doing that, I would say. We're looking into that, but is there any action the select board feels we need to take regarding something like this, other than we're doing the investigation into the appropriateness of the road?
Dan, do you have an opinion about that road?
If you make it a one-way, I would have it one-way coming from the blacktop up. It's narrow.
Yeah.
And you get these heavy rains, the ditches get deeper and deeper. There's one spot on that road to put a culvert to try to, but the property owner does not want water on his property.
I see.
So, it's years ago, in the wintertime, we used to block it off. We just went down the other way, so.
And would that be an option for us again, or would that be a hardship for?
Nah, I mean, like Lions use it coming up through with their trucks, and a lot of people use it as a shortcut. But I would recommend, if you do it, have it one way coming up, put a do not enter, but you're still going to have people going down it. So.
But people with heavy equipment and trailers can really only get up one side.
Yeah.
They can't make the corner coming from Heinsberg.
Yeah. It's narrow. It's always
So you can only come up from from Brattleboro going one way up.
Right.
With a trailer on or being a big truck.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, it's information. We'll keep. I think we should just let this roll, and maybe it will come as a motion for us to consider.
So just to inform, that would be another amendment or change to the highway ordinance.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not a simple change, but it would require us making some adjustments to ordinances and things.
Or would it be a seasonal, it's just something for more.
If we're going to continue, it might be 9 months of the year if we get rains like this continuing going forward, and then winter comes. And, yeah. Well, so let's keep investigating. All right, we'll see what happens. But thank you to the citizen for notifying us, bringing it to our attention. All right, I will, bear with me please as I read actions.
Thanks, Dan.
Good
night, Dan. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Actions from the previous meeting. We approved minutes of the September 11th meeting. We tabled a conflict of interest amendment discussion. We accepted a Potash Road discontinuance order. We approved a sand bid. We tabled a finance advisory committee discussion. We approved the liquor license for Vermont Mobile Spirits. We approved a town office door project. We approved the warrants, and we moved into executive session. There was no action when we came out of that executive session. Actions taken this evening: we approved the minutes. We there's no further. What did we do about the traffic speeds? We didn't do anything. We're going to continue conversation. We didn't. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. We approved a purchase of a grader. We accepted the lister's errors and omissions report. We approved a resolution that would correct town meeting errors and omissions. We appointed a two-person a subcommittee to look at South Stoney Hill Road issues. We approved of the Guilford Center Road solar system project by the library. We appointed a two-person committee to conduct 180-day staff evaluation and reviews. And we approved a subcommittee appointment for an ARPA request from the Historical Society. We also approved the warrants for this evening. I don't think there were any other actions taken. To be taken, I can see that we need to continue the Finance Advisory Committee discussion, and we need to continue the discussion of conflict of interest on amendment discussion at another meeting, and beyond that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Miranda, is there any discussion here in the room? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thank you very kindly. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next time on a Monday. Thank you very much.
Right.